Hello you guys, and welcome to another video on Rocky Mamahood, where I share bits and pieces of motherhood and how I steward my home. Not too long ago I did a newborn essentials video and it went over way better than I had anticipated. I wanted to turn this into a bit of a series where I share with you the essentials for each stage of babyhood and toddlerhood, as I have now gone through these stages twice. So I started with newborn essentials, and those things are extremely basic. Of course, there's probably things you're going to want to add to that, but when you're looking for the basics, that's, in my opinion, what I covered in that video. Now in this video, I wanted to do the next stage of life, which is the ages 3 months to 6 months. There's a lot of development and progression that happens between 3 months and 6 months. So this list is a little bit, it might be a little bit longer than my newborn essentials, but to me, these are the basics. Of course, you're probably gonna want to go beyond this. But for me, when I was looking for videos or blog posts to tell me what I needed for my kid, it was so overwhelming, and I just needed someone to tell me, this is what you need. Like, this is what you should prioritize. Anything outside of this is extra. My baby is over here devouring raspberries. I think we have a new favorite. It was bananas, and I think it is now raspberries. But I have a list, and I am going to go through this as quickly as I can. And like I said, there's a lot of development that happens between ages 3 months to 6 months. 6 months. So there's going to be some of these items that you might use at first and you won't use, you'll kind of fizzle it out towards the end, or vice versa. One thing that both of my kids used from very early on until probably 6 or 7 months are crinkle books and board books. Crinkle books, I love them because they're reactive to your child's movements. They're learning a lot about their body and a lot about their environment as such a young baby. And so I love those crinkle books. It keeps them so engaged and entertained. So I highly recommend some fun crinkle books. I have 3 crinkle books that I have used for both of my children. And then board books. I love board books. They have the thick pages. They're very hard to break. And I like the ones that have big pictures of animals, and maybe there's a section of it that is like fuzzy, like you can pet the duck or you can pet the sheep. Those are going to engage your kid whenever it comes to learning about different textures, and it's going to encourage them to reach for the things that they want. These are in no particular order, and usually between the ages of 3 months and 6 months, you will start to introduce some sort of solids once your child begins to sit up. I fed my oldest purees. With my second, I'm doing baby-led weaning, and honestly, I love it so much better than purees. And this suction cup plate I have used with both of my kiddos. This one is the Saturday Baby brand. I will either link this one down below or a similar one. I think you guys know by now I like to keep things minimal, so I have one suction plate and one suction bowl. Yes, I do. Along the same lines, you're probably going to want to have a high chair. It can get pretty messy to try to feed your child outside of a high chair, whether it's baby-led weaning or purees. It can get really messy. So I prefer a high chair that is not cloth. I like a high chair that I can take completely apart. I can put the pieces in the sink and clean it completely. I'll link it below. But I got the Ingenuity high chair, which this one, I think it was like the 3-in-1. It has like the booster chair and the high chair. So right now we're actually using both pieces because my toddler sits in the booster chair. It's like a restaurant style chair where it's a chair that just sits up higher. So she sits in that one, and then my baby is in the normal high chair part, but that is strapped to a chair. So anyways, I'll link it below so you can check it out. It's really super cool. As far as toys, you're going to want some grippy toys and some things that are safe for them to chew on. They're gonna like things that rattle. They're gonna like things that are soft to chew on, easy to grab. This corn is textured, and both of my kids have enjoyed holding it, chomping their chompers on it, and it really helps with teething and easy for them to grab. This one's fun. Both of my kids have loved. It's just a simple little ball. What's the brand? Nubby? I don't know how to say that. My husband caved and got the Sophie giraffe because my oldest, we were in the store and she saw it and fell in love. She loves giraffes. So he caved and got it for her, but the baby has ended up using it a little bit more. So she chews on it, it squeaks. So this has been great. And then soft rattle type toys. You like those? So just a few simple toys. I have probably 10 infant toys, and so she'll get 5 at a time when she's between the ages of 3 to 6 months. That way I can rotate them and she doesn't get bored of them. There's always something new. Side note, while I have been through this age twice now, it was very different from first to second child because my second kid, she liked all these things, but she also really liked the older kid toys that my toddler was playing with, and she still does. So that's just gonna be the reality of children who are not the oldest. She still has enjoyed these toys, but this definitely was a little bit more true for my oldest than it was for my second, because there's so much more to see to play with a second, because the oldest has all of these other toys that weren't already there when her oldest was going through that stage, if that makes sense. At this age, both of my kids were still using their play gyms. I debated whether or not this was an essential. I would say it's probably more so an essential with your second than with your first. For me, my first used it a little, but I had more free time and my hands weren't quite so full, so I was able to hold her and hang out with her a little bit more. With my second, the floor gym came in very handy from a very early age until probably about 6 months, because she started crawling between 5 and 6 months. And so she just didn't stay put anymore. The next thing is so simple. Mirrors. Kids love to look at themselves. They love to see reflections. Mirrors are so fantastic for kids. For nap times and nighttime, we started using a sleep sack. We really love the Kite Baby sleep sack. She is so cozy and they're so soft, but any sleep sack obviously will do. But we had got one Kite Baby sleep sack and I fell in love with it. And so I just have to highly recommend that the Kite Baby sleep sack is just superior to all of the others. Another thing that can really affect sleep and just overall mood throughout the day is teething. At this age, your child will most likely start teething. I believe the average age that a child begins to teeth is between the ages of 3 to 6 months. My youngest, she started teething at 2.5 months. By the time she was 6 months old, she had several teeth. The thing that really got us through were these camellia drops. I can get these at my local grocery store. I've heard that that's not the case all over the country. So I think Amazon, oh, that's upside down. I think Amazon has them. These are just homeopathic drops. It says they calm and soothe the baby. Teething relief for painful gums and irritability. I use these for my baby and I use them for my toddler. They are so great. So highly recommend having these for whenever your child is going through this stage, because teething will hit on a moment's notice and you want to be prepared. Pretty sure this goes without saying, but your kid's gonna need some clothes. So I would suggest having some clothes. I'm still a fan of keeping things minimal. I wouldn't say that my kids necessarily have a capsule wardrobe, because I like for them to play really hard in their clothes, and sometimes that means changing clothes in the middle of the day, and I would like to have enough clothes to be able to do that. So I would not say my kids necessarily have a capsule wardrobe, but it is not a large wardrobe either. In my household, we have chosen not to use battery operated toys. Anything that flashes or makes unnecessary sounds or has buttons that do things. We don't have those. They drive me insane, and I love to leave room for a child's imagination to grow. And I feel like those toys don't leave a lot of room for imagination. What we do have though, this does have batteries obviously, but it is a little bit more interactive. My kids both have loved music. They love instruments, they love listening to music, they love the music at church. Music has been a huge part of my kids' life. This is something that both of my kids used between the ages of 3 to 6 months. Whenever they're learning to sit up, I'll prop them up and put this in front of them, and it keeps them entertained. And it makes, oh, it's just such a joyful noise. It's just my favorite thing to hear my kids playing on their piano. So I think musical instruments are a fantastic way to entertain your kiddos and to help their brain grow through this challenging time and development for them. In the newborn video, I mentioned using a bouncer for my baby. During this age window is when I stopped using that. So I would say at 3 months, I was still using it. At 6 months, I was not using it anymore. So that kind of faded out in this time. So there are probably things that will fade out from that newborn stage as you work through this second stage of life, and you'll be transitioning into other things. So instead of the bouncer, we do have a saucer. Now, I'm still 50-50 on the saucer, because I've heard a lot of pros and I've heard a lot of cons about using a saucer. We have a Juvie, what is it? The Juvie spoon, and I will link that below. I love it because there's no toys attached to it, so it still allows for a lot of free play. It's just a surface. It's almost like a high chair in the front. I don't know that I would say it's an essential, but it is something that both of my kids have enjoyed. I like to limit their time in it for hip development reasons. It is one of those things that's just, it's nice to have. So I'm really 50-50 on whether or not it's essential or whether it's maybe an extra. So I had to add it in the video because I'm just not sure. Please let me know if you think this is an essential or not. Of course, there are so many things that you could use for your child in this stage of life. The last thing on my list though for absolute basic essentials is the boppy. Now, I feel like I use the boppy so much more during this stage than in the newborn stage, because this is the stage where your kid learns to sit up, and that is such a wonky process. Your kid is probably going to topple over way more than they're actually going to sit up for quite some time. They'll sit up, they'll fall over, they'll sit up, they'll fall over. And having that extra support around them is so handy. So that's what I use the boppy for. I prop them up in that, I put the piano in front of them or some books, and they're fully entertained and they love it. So boppy for sitting up purposes, I would suggest a boppy over a bumbo, because the bumbo I feel like has way more support, and it might keep their legs from allowing them to sit in the way that is comfortable for them and the way that their body wants to sit, because it's a lot more firm. So I prefer the boppy for helping them sit rather than the bumbo. Of course, there's things that you're still probably going to use from newborn days, like the sound machine. You might be pumping, you might be using the haka, but those are, you've already been using those, so I'm not going to cover them in this video. These are just the things that you will probably need in addition to some of those newborn things that you will either keep using or fade out through this 3 to 6 month stage. I hope that you enjoyed this video. She says like and subscribe. So I think that's a fantastic idea. You should go ahead and hit that thumbs up. It's free. Subscribing is free, and it like really super helps me out. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate it, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye.